All right, what's going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. I'm not gonna go through this spiel. Usually by now you get that annoyed look at me, like hurry up and get over with, which got me thinking, by the way, if we ever, and we're doing this live on the video side at least anyway, podcast form will be out tomorrow. I'm with Tone Bucks, by the way. If we were actually had to had sponsors on the video
Oh
side,
God,
and you had to, and I had to pause so I could do an ad read, what would your reaction be?
it's tough, man. It's tough, and it's interesting too because that started for me on the radio side when ad reads became a thing, and I don't know statistically that they lose me. Like maybe I stay. I don't know. I you know what I mean? Maybe I stay, but I get really really annoyed at the at the ad read way of, I guess maybe just more on the radio side because I know what to expect over there, right? All right. I know when GR's breaks are, they're usually going at the 25-minute mark, the 50-minute mark, and then
Sure.
I would listen so much and for a time call so much that I just kind of knew when those were coming. And then when the ad reads started to come in, it as a listener, it bugged me, and that might carry over a little bit to this side of things and waiting to talk for you to go through those ad reads. But I want to know something. This
Go ahead.
starting off with coming out of left field here. A lot of what you read and things like that, it sounds like you're on some sort of network, like somebody in some way, shape, or form, sponsors and delivers the
Shout
show.
out Blue Wire Network.
There you go. Could you tell me briefly kind of what happened on the rumbling side? Like what did they lose? You know what I mean? Like as far as their ability to
Well, their podcasts are dead. Vox Media owns SB Nation, not just Buffalo Rumblings, all the sports teams, all the teams in four major pro sports. I guess maybe the only thing I'd come up with is that it wasn't making money. So they cut like 2 years ago funding or paying whatever they were, those guys were making whatever, I don't know what they were making, but they kept rumblings around 2 years ago and they cut all but maybe 6 or 7 teams because they were one of the better performing ones. But what sucked about that is, when things happen, you kind of get an inkling that, hey, we're going to, we might have to be shutting this down, this and that. Apparently, everybody got an email at the same time and just said, you guys are done.
Yeah, they did one of those.
It sucks. Sucks for some of them. They'll be all right.
I got to imagine though, like they've got, the foundation there to just pick back up if they want to just go solo and keep their content.
Yeah, some of them are
content going out.
Joe Miller's and working with John Fina and Jerry Ostrowski. Kind of Joe had his own thing in the past, so I think they're resurrecting that. The one who's going to have Anthony Marino's been on with me every week. He's been out with me for a while now. He's not sure what he's going to do. The one to keep their eye on is Bruce Nolan. He's the popular one. He was far and away the most popular personality on that network, and he'll have opportunities. I've talked to him briefly. Whether it's cover one, whether it's he can do whatever he wants. Everybody's gonna want him, including some mainstream networks. I would be willing to.
He invests some good time in his in his product. So, I was just curious, I saw some of it and wondered a little bit, how that whole thing works and stuff like that. I know, you get like those, what do you get? Like gratuity checks for like 32 cents or something from your place.
Something like that. No, we do all right. There's a couple Buffalo related. Now, I don't work for a Buffalo network. But Tyler Dunn is part of Blue Wire, and the Rock Pile Report is as well. Yeah, those guys will be they'll be fine. By the way, I gotta ask you a question now since we're doing left field which, by the way, for people listening who haven't seen any promos or anything, we're gonna be talking primarily today. I want to talk some Buffalo Sabres actually today couple comments already up I'll get to regarding Don Granato. His failures as a head coach, leadership. Should the team move on? Will they move on? We're going to hit on some of that. We'll, of course, get into at least some Bills talk. Couple, I guess, Diggs takes, although I'm kind of getting to be like you are right now, to the point of disengaged when it comes to Stephon Diggs and everything going on.
All right, well, let me hear that out of left field.
Huh?
Give me the out of left field thing. That's so much more interesting to me than all that shit.
On Twitter, so we're taping this late Wednesday night. On Twitter, I don't follow Joe at Buffalo Wins, and he doesn't follow me. But yet somehow he always ends up in my mentions because I know he's like hate looking at me like he's, you know what I mean? We don't agree on anything on social, especially on Twitter. Anyway, he wrote something that you had written something, and then he wrote something. So it was both of you. So I went to reply to all, and I put in something. I don't even remember what the hell the goddamn topic was. Surely it was about Diggs, and you were talking about you were disengaged.
Right.
And I wrote back, and it says Joe and whatever his comment was, and then it says author something. I couldn't see the comment. I look, and about 10 minutes later, I realize you fucking blocked me on Twitter. I'm like, are you kidding me? Is that a gimmick? I mean, what the hell's going on?
I'm so glad
you blocked me
coming
on Twitter.
Out this way, dude. Like, because my intent when I did it, all right, was for it to be brief, but in the back of my head, I was like, oh, I hope I actually do kind of forget. And then when he sees it, it's, it's funny.
Oh, I did notice today. It took me 3 days to notice that you blocked me though, because
which is also weird because you're usually at the top of, of all my refreshes. But man, I went the short route with all your wrestling shit the other day. I was like, I'm done with this. I don't, I'm not a muter. I'm not going to go like,
you skip mute.
I'm like, I'm just gonna block this dude, and when I remember, I'll unblock his ass. But yeah, you and then on the tech side, you and my cousin Danny, loyal listener
sure
from
is.
Florida. Yeah, you guys are driving me nuts with that wrestling shit, man. I don't know. It was totally polluting my feed.
I didn't wrestle that much.
I felt like the block of it would send the greater message to the logistics of the app to say, not only keep Pat away from me, but keep all this wrestling nonsense away from me. Whatever day that was, I can't even.
It was Saturday and Sunday. It was Sunday where I was tweeting though, because Saturday I was busy drinking. Had myself a day on Saturday. WrestleMania Night 1, I didn't even watch. Sunday I did. You hate wrestling that much, or? I don't know. I thought maybe it was like, what? Really?
Yeah.
You know what?
Don't want.
For people who don't know, me and Joe Bucks have known each other since early on in high school. So we're talking a good 30, Jesus Christ, man, 36, 37 years now at this point. Now that I think about it, I don't think I ever remember you being into wrestling at all.
You. I definitely had my day with wrestling, but I think it predated me coming to the city and making friends with you and stuff like that. My era maybe was about somewhere between 2 and 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hardcore Hogan as WWF champ. Beefcake and Valentine on the tag team side against the Bulldogs or the Killer Bees, are all oncomers who couldn't unseat Beefcake and Valentine during those years.
Yeah.
Intercontinental Championship, or champions changing hand a little here and there. Macho Man, I think. That was my era. It was about a 2 to 4
early
year
80s, early mid 80s.
It was about a 2 to 4 year era, and then I was out, man.
Yeah.
Then I was out.
I hear you. Well, I kind of thought it was pretty cool that you blocked me when I thought about it. And it's also funny that it took me a couple of days to even realize that you blocked me for me to even think to look at your Twitter and look and see what you might have been up to.
I had a good laugh when you finally noticed it, and I had forgotten that I did it.
Anyway, all right. So the Sabres lost earlier this week, Tuesday night, 3-2, to officially be eliminated for the playoffs for a 13th straight season. They tied the New York Jets for the longest drought in all of sports. not just hockey, all of sports. I don't know. I could sit here and give it long-winded, which I usually would do, but I don't feel that good right now.
And normally I'd cut you off, but let me tell you something right now, okay? The longer the shit you got to say tonight, the better. All right, because I'm just gonna sit back here and probably respond to some emails and
yeah, when I got a
sword
chest, I literally told you that I might be going to welfare.
We shouldn't even be in to the point of the Sabres yet. You might be dying right on this podcast. And I don't think we can just sit there and ignore it. You are literally, all right, that is your favorite word. Are you aware of how often you overuse literally?
A lot.
Oh my God.
It got worse after watching Parks and Rec. I don't know if you watched that too.
No, I wasn't. But I heard it was a good show.
Literally, yeah, that Rob Lowe.
Really, I mean, I've got, believe me, I've got my flaws, my ums and ands, and especially, but you and the literally, but you are literally going to a healthcare facility after this because of a concern in your chest area. I mean, this is not. I don't even know that you should be doing this right now.
Being heroic, man. But sorry. So listen, man. Again, I'm not going to paint this long-winded statistical profile of Don Granato. Well, I probably am, but I'm not going to do it.
Tell me when that's coming, because I swear to God,
I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it right now. I guess, how responsible do you think Don Granato should be right now? How much accountability should he have? Sometimes you go on Twitter and you got Mike Harrington yelling it's the players. Lance Lazowski, sometimes it's the players. Sometimes Mike gets on the coach. He wrote a really strong column a couple weeks ago saying it's time for him to go. So let's start there before I even throw some numbers out there for people watching or listening. But how much accountability does Don Granato have? Who, by the way, I will throw one number at you. This is crazy, and it doesn't feel like it to me, but he's the 6th longest tenured coach in the NHL right now.
I don't mind this.
That's pretty wild, man.
It is a little bit.
He's right up there high on the list, but you look at the failures of this season. How much of that? I know there's other factors, injuries, players underperforming, yada, yada, yada. How much, though, do you look at Don Granato and say, this is on him? And mostly, like, why? Why is it on him primarily?
You can make an argument, man, and it's a lame one because it doesn't really drive the discussion. And I mean, we're trying to be the weekday daily driver of Buffalo sports
and talk and more
here. All right. You can make an argument that you could chop the pie up in 3 even slices between Granato, Adams, and the players. You can make that argument, bro. All right. If I were to just look at Granato, I'd say he probably underachieved as a coach. His group underachieved a little bit. And I think he underperformed to expectations, maybe to the tune of, I don't know, 6 to 8 points by the time all is said and done. He probably had a 6 to 8 point better roster. So it's not about whether or not dude deserves to be fired. To me, it's about what can you get if you change the message. All right. How much can be benefited from changing the message? I don't know that answer. Okay. That answer to me lies heavily in what is going to be out there. And I think I've said this before. It's about who they might be able to grab to upgrade Granato than just about, we got to change the message. Where's the latest retread? That's not, that doesn't get it done for me. All right. If you're going to do that, I'll stay with Granato, because at least I know my man found, all right, his first line as this season wound down. Too late, a little too late. But I don't need anybody throwing this roster in a blender right now. I just don't. Okay. I finally feel like they've got a first line. Okay. Because I never felt that way when it was Skinner skating with Tage and Tuck. I felt like the defensive flaws were magnified by that group. And, Tuck at times, wasn't really playing a power forward type game. Man, it all changed when JJ Peterka went up there, man. It all changed when Peterka went to that line. And I guess all I'm saying is we found some things out late in the season, and I don't want to go back on those and reset the clock with a new coach if it's just going to be some dude.
Well, why does it have to be just some dude, though?
It don't have to be just some dude, bro. It don't have to be just some dude. Name me a guy that really goes and, I don't know, sells tickets, demands respect. Okay, I'll listen to all that. We could talk about Lindy.
I was going to.
We can talk about
bring
Lindy.
It up. I hate to do it.
We can talk about Boudreaux, who might be the only dude I've ever seen in front of a camera who swears more than me. All right. We can talk about Bruce Boudreaux all day. He's probably somewhere. I don't even know if that's the case. Look.
What about?
We'll talk about
the coach.
Fine upgrading the position.
I didn't get a chance to read it yet. I believe.
Oh, don't Seth Appert me.
I believe Chad wrote about him today. I haven't read it yet, though.
Unless they just really have a gut feeling like he's the next thing. Okay. I don't want to hear about a lateral move. I'm not interested in a lateral move. Now, if you can make the argument that Appert's seen a lot of these guys at the minor league level and a bunch more are on the way up that he's had some time to have his hands on too. I'll listen. All right. I'll listen. But you got to convince me that Seth Appert is an upgrade.
Well, I'm not saying he is.
Not you. Right. But you know what I mean? The Sabres got to sell me on an upgrade, not just a change.
I need a coach who's going to have his team ready to play. All right, now I am going to throw some stats at you. Let me give some credit to Kevin Snow. Kevin Snow used to work for the Sabres.
It did not take long at all.
Well, I think they're important to the conversation, though. These aren't just, random regular stats. This will illustrate the point, what's going on with this team, why we're talking about no freaking playoffs for 13 straight years right now. All right? 261 goals allowed in the first period this year. Over the last 3 years, I'm sorry. Most in the entire NHL. So they are the worst team in the NHL in 3 full years of Don Granato being a head coach. It's not even just this year. 3 years. The worst in the entire NHL in goals allowed in the first period. This season alone, 29 times they have allowed 2 or more goals in the first period. Their record in those games, 7-21-1. Their first 3 months of the season, 2-15-1. Conversely, they've scored 22nd in goals scored in the first period over the last 3 years. So they're a minus 55 combined in the first period, which is kind of my point, Tone. I'm talking about this team coming out flat, not ready to play. 36, 80, and 14 in the last 3 years when the opponent scores first. That's well over half of their games for 3 years as that beer cracks open. And then again, a lot of other factors. This team's played an entire season and they haven't won more than 3 games in a row at any point. Through January 1st, they're at a 73-point pace. They came on after they got buried. Because speaking of, they get within 4 points of a playoff, 0-6 in those games. Literally, pointless. 0-6 once they got to 4 points or less. The power play sucks ass. It's 29th in the league. And to me, especially when they got eliminated Tuesday night, I just don't feel accountability from Don Granato at all. I didn't even really want to talk about it. Said he'd be asked about it later on. Meanwhile, what few guys are actually going to stick around the locker room to fucking talk about it, Tuck being one of them now, that Okposo's gone. This is just a team, dude, that don't come ready to play. 29 times in 79 games, you've given up 2 or more goals in the first period. This happens all the time. So, again, numbers that support the fact that this is a team that starts like shit. Just sometimes they don't come out to play at all, and they fall in holes and they don't get out of them. So I'm having a hard time seeing what value Don Granato brings to this team at this point. Other than developing some of these players, maybe get them to a level, but I don't feel any confidence at all that he's going to get them any further than where they are right now.
You know, when I send you those pictures of me opening a White Claw, do you know that I'm like going for the Will Ferrell meme when I do that? Do you know the Will Ferrell meme? Come on, Twitter uses it all the time, where my wife says, "You're not drinking by 11, are you?" And then me, and it's Will Ferrell like smashing open the beer. You know the meme I'm talking about?
I think I do.
That's what I'm, when I send you pictures of me cracking a claw, that's what I'm going for.
I just thought you were letting me know you were drinking at 10 or 11.
Easy. You never know who's listening.
Jokes, folks. That was that night.
Anyway. All that is right, but I'm not sure I'm ready to blame. Like when we talk about, where the blame falls, in my 1/3 pie chart, being ready to play, those first period, deficits that they find themselves on. I'm just not ready to point the finger and say that's a Don Granato problem. I don't know.
Really?
I just,
your coach, what does he deserve blame for then? If this team comes out flat and not ready to play and they're falling down 2-0 all the time or 3-1 in the first period, what does he deserve blame for?
There's a lot of smart guys who don't, I think analytics in large part doesn't necessarily buy into the early deficits. Like it's just, hey, this is kind of just the ebbs and flows of the game. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. All right. But it seems like the smart guys are saying, the non-reactionary guys, all right, are saying this really isn't like a Granato thing. I could be wrong, though. I could be wrong about that. I don't think it's necessarily a Granato thing. I don't think it's a lack of intensity early or anything like that. But it's going to come down to Adams, man. It's going to come down to whether or not Adams feels like, those deficits are a sign of a team coming out, not feeling like they're ready to run through a wall. Like, look, this is super lame. Okay. But one of the things I really wanted to kind of do today, as I was thinking about some of the messages I would deliver during the course of coaching, a 14-year-old baseball game, I wanted to give them a little run through the wall moment. All right. As they were taking the field for the first time. I don't think Don Granato's that guy. Now there's an argument to be made that these players should not need to, to break the locker room. All right. Like they just got talked to by Gene Hackman and Hoosiers. Okay. I mean, but Granato just ain't that dude, man. If you ever heard like Granato try to connect,
I agree.
If you ever heard Granato on GR, like try to connect with like a joke or something with some sort of like,
I hear you.
Like, so he's like,
but I think they need that though.
He's terrible.
I think that's what they're missing.
Maybe it is. Let me
pull up a comment. I'm Don Betting, because I was going to ask you this anyway. He says not wanting to discuss missing the playoffs is an insane thing for a head coach to say. He's referring to the 3-2 loss against Dallas that eliminated them. Tuck was talking about him getting off to a shit start. He was in the locker room after the game. The team falling behind. Granato had no interest in talking about it. Not to say he's not going to talk about it in the future because he's going to get asked about it. He'll talk about it. But even in that moment, to me, that pissed off a lot of fans. Sabres Twitter on Tuesday night was really, really fucking ugly.
Look, man.
And I was a part of it too, because I was annoyed. I didn't even have to watch the game really to get annoyed.
Okay, listen,
Go ahead.
I'm comfortable with this statement. Bad look. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Bad look. But not going to be the difference between stays or goes.
Do you think the last 15, 20 games, or maybe even longer than that, doesn't really matter either? Like, do you think that decision's already been made? I asked you if they should fire him. Do you think they're going to? Because that might not be the same question. What would you like the gamble line? Shit, man. What would be your line right now for Terry Bagula? When's the last game? The 14th at Tampa? 2 days later, 3 days later, what's your line that Terry Bagula relieves that we get a notice on Twitter? Because it won't leak. It comes right from the team. Everything with the Sabres comes from the team. Never any real leaks.
Minus 120, man. It's an even money bet.
Are you kidding me? Really?
It's an even money bet.
Wow. I would take that bet in a second. That he stays.
Stays? Knock yourself out.
I would say 4-1.
Oh.
So what's that? Plus 400 in? Plus 400?
Plus 400, minus 400.
I don't think he's going to get fired. I don't think dude has not even, his extension hasn't even started yet. He's not going to eat that entire extension. I think what could happen is.
Do we know? Look, are we positive of what the dollar value of what Pegula would have to eat is?
No, I have no idea what it is. I just know that he signed him to an extension that has not started until after this season.
I don't know.
Well, that's a fact.
Yeah,
I don't know how much it is.
So how are we on the hook for an extension that doesn't even exist yet? All I'm saying is, and I was wrong. Look, I was wrong about Diggs. I believe, like, I don't know who I said it to, but I thought there were layers involved in the potential of a Diggs trade that we weren't really on top of financially. Okay. And it just so happens that there are guys out there that were absolutely right. Local guys do a great job. All right. Diggs's, cap hit was every bit what, there was nothing hiding. Everyone was right. I don't think the same is true of the Granato contract. Now, Skinner buyout money, yeah, okay, that can be looked at. That can be proven. All right, what it's going to be and how long it's going to be. Although I still think there's some wiggle room in there, and I'm willing to place an odd, a betting odd with that as well. But just
I want to talk about him in a minute.
Yeah, I'd love to, with a little less vitriol, but still 100% conviction that I do think they'll move on. Yeah, but Granato's a coin flip. No better than a coin flip for me. I'm not sure what the money is. I think Pegula knows the look, all right, of going cheap on the Sabres when, like, $1 million a beam is going up across over in Orchard Park. You know what I mean?
Dude, he has not spoken publicly about the Sabres since 2020.
He'll eat it if it's the best thing for the team. He'll eat it if it's the best thing for the team. Allen's got a lot of pull. I don't want to, or Adams, excuse me. Adams has a lot of pull. I don't want Adams going anywhere. Okay. Every single freaking person, all right, would have done the exact same thing that Adams did last year. All right. He locked up the core too early in my book, which again is a hindsight 2020 kind of take. I'm not saying, that I knew then not to lock them up.
Right.
But he did, he locked up the core. He didn't really do anything outside of what people thought he would do. The biggest risk that people thought he was taking, all right, was not addressing the goaltending position. And he actually ended up, you could argue, being right to some extent by continuing to have a little bit of faith in UPL, although it wasn't there early in the season when they rode Levi. All things being equal, though, man, I am not looking for a house cleaning. I am looking for Kevin Adams to stick around. And if Kevin Adams can go find a better coach than Don Granato, I'm up for it. All right, I'm up.
Like if Ron Brindamore, I've heard his name a lot. Like if he becomes available,
I think Carolina, if they haven't done it already, they're close to doing it. But if that type of guy exists out there that we're not really sure of.
What about Lindy? I'm going to ask about Lindy. I don't like asking about him because it just seems like the low hanging fruit to bring up Lindy Ruff. But in this case, if you could get Lindy Ruff to be your head coach and fire Don Granato, are you doing that?
You've got to be willing to take the heat, all right, from the people who think it's the obvious ticket selling move. You're going to get that. You're going to get that. All right. Even though it's Lindy Ruff, you just basically went and got another retread coach. But if Adams truly believes that, Lindy Ruff is the type of coach that can reach these guys, this group, at a level where Don Granato left off or didn't reach, depending upon how, much you want to blame Granato for it, then it's okay. Then it's okay. But it's gotta make hockey sense. Adams has to be able to separate the two and decide whether or not it makes good hockey sense. It may. It just may.
Got a comment. Granato has to go. How can he keep his job? This is from Double Omega. Again, we're talking about that, iron it out right now. Then he also says Rob Ray should jump into coaching His commentary is always spot on. I'm going to agree to disagree with that last statement. All due respect, my guy. Thank you for watching. I appreciate the comment. But yeah, I'm going to agree to disagree with that one there. Look, you're right. Would there be some pushback to Lindy Ruff hypothetically being the guy to replace Granato? Sure. But don't you think that the pushback is going to be way, way worse if they do nothing? Kevin Adams ain't going to get fired. If Granato returns and all they do is maybe replace a couple assistants, which 8 out of 10 Sabres fans, I guarantee you don't even know who the assistants are, myself included. I think I know one of the 3 maybe. So if they're just going to get rid of them and maybe add one veteran over the course of the summer and expect a different result next year, I tweeted after that Dallas game, I feel like this team, the fans are really, really close to completely turning on this franchise, like for real turning.
All right. Well, I'm going to put it to you like this. And I'm confident in this statement. If Don Granato is let go, don't expect a ton of roster changes. If Don Granato
I don't expect that anyway.
If Don Granato is kept, I would then expect there to be significant roster changes. All right. I think it's going to happen in one area or the other. All right. Like I said, I keep talking about, I'm putting this in, in a pie graph and breaking it evenly in 1/3 and thirds. And I think the one most secure of the 3 at fault is the GM. I do. I'd be shocked.
Me too. I don't think he's going anywhere.
I'd be shocked. But then again, they shocked me with Murray back in the day, but I think that's because Kim also kind of hated him. Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree with you, man.
All right. But I think Adams is secure, and then it comes down to the players and the coach. And I think Adams is going to look at those. And I think if the coach stays, you're going to see player change. I think if the coach goes, I think you're going to see the roster, not be manipulated quite as much. Obviously, like if Granato goes, someone's going to come in and want to do some new things. You know what I mean? And we'll want some personnel changes, I'm sure. But I think Adams, follow-up move can somewhat be predicated on, the coaching move that he makes at the start.
Look, man, when it comes, you have a pie. I like the pie thing too, but the difference with us is I'm not going to split it up 3 even ways. I think Granato deserves more than just a third, because a good coach, a strong coach will get a younger team ready to come out and play. This team just gives away the first part of the season. They've done it 2 straight years. This team plays lousy at home. This team plays shitty in big moments when they get close. And I just don't see what's going to change. Maybe you add a third line center and another defenseman to this roster. What is really going to change with the head coach? I think, especially in hockey, it seems anyway, because coaches fucking get fired or resign all the time in this sport. Again, Granato's been the coach for not even 4 years, and he's the 6th longest tenured in the entire league. I don't see anything changing, and I'm bothered. I just don't feel like there's any accountability. Tim Graham wrote about that real quick. I want to move on in a minute, but Tim Graham wrote about when he used to cover the Sabres beat, and that team would lose, like the Stu Barnes era, and those guys, they stayed in the locker room. They answered questions. They faced the music. This team, maybe 1 or 2 guys are around. It was Okposo. He got traded. Now it seems like it's Alex Tuck. Mostly Rasmus Dahlin. Most of these guys are nowhere to be found. And Granato seems okay with that. Like, I don't think it's the guy. But what I do think is going to happen is they're going to do nothing. And then if they start out shitty, 15, 20 games in, he'll get fired next year. Well, I'm telling you, man, I think a big portion of this fan base is going to turn on him before that. I really do. I think it's about to get really ugly.
Well, I think that's why. I think
13 years, bro.
I think that's why they're doing one or the other, bro.
Got to get rid of the coach. You can't sell this team Who are they going to go get that's going to be like, all right, I'm good with this team, even with Granato back? That's going to excite you. They're not getting them. They're going to get Steven Stamkos, somebody like that. That's what it's going to take to go get someone like that. It's the only way. It's not. I just don't see it happening.
I think they go big game hunting. All right, with the money.
Better be a trade or better be stupid money.
I think it's the money that I'm pretty firm on Jeff Skinner not being a part of this. Let's just get to the roster. All right. I mean, Granato's just talking about one guy. You can only talk about one guy so much. Okay. Sure. Let's get to the roster.
All right. Pinto Todd does say he kind of agrees with you to an extent. They love Granato. You're not saying they love him, but I just don't see them firing him until midseason next year if they still stink. The one thing I do want to say about the roster, because I think the one incumbent, besides maybe Yoka Haru, I've heard that, maybe he gets traded, but you've been talking about Skinner a lot. Somebody in a mailbag for the Buffalo News, Lance Lazowski, asked him the same question about the chances. And Lance said, okay, well, the problem is who's going to take a spot. Like he's talking about Kulik or Savoy, those guys not being ready yet to jump into that role, which seems to be the problem. And then he said maybe 2025, you would see that. So I think you're going to see Skinner back next year. Plus, buyout wise, it makes sense to keep him for another year. I just don't see a lot of turnover on this team. I just don't. Kevin Adams has said he'll make a trade, though.
All right, let's start. All right, let's start. And we can also take this roster. I know you just said, we'll move on from this in a second. This may go long. It may not. But we can go like almost line for line and really, the Granato effect versus, who might need a change. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They found line one.
Agreed.
They finally found line one. It needed to be Peterka because Peterka's got a little better two-way game. All right.
And Skinner.
But they found line one. Yep. I don't need it to be Granato or someone else. I think, even though I think Tage has fallen off a little bit.
Putting up
this year, the numbers have been crazy. But I don't think there's a Granato versus somebody else factor in line one. Do I give Granato credit for finally realizing it should have been JJ, or do I knock him for not realizing that it should have been JJ? Well, is it really Don Granato's fault that he had to sit there with a $9 million anchor that didn't, that's roster. That's not him. Maybe he gets to Peterka sooner. I mean, he was always very hung up on the kid line, but Peterka was a pretty viable answer. I don't say obvious, but sure. He was there the whole time. He belonged there. Of all the guys we thought, all right, were first line potential players, JJ Peterka's name was always there, but he was stuck behind $9 million of nothingness. Anyways, so we got our line one.
Yeah.
Line two is where it gets tricky. All right. Do you blame the Cousins regression on, the Quinn injury and just, kind of just a lost year, a down year? Or this is one place where you can start to say, okay, Don Granato stopped getting through to Dylan Cousins. That's a problem. All right. Mm-hmm. I got to go. You know what I mean? I need a guy that gets through to Dylan Cousins because I just paid him $7 million for 8 years or whatever. So that's a possibility. But if you just kind of look at it and be like, especially here late in the down the stretch, Cousins with Quinn back and a responsible defensive presence in Benson, like how long are we gonna?
Funny to say that for some. How long is Benson being that young?
I know, right? How long is Benson not gonna crack the top six? Like once you're playing your rookie year at 18, maybe he's a middle sixer his whole career. Maybe he's just a really good middle sixer his whole career. But I think there's an argument to be had that he belongs in the top six.
Sure.
Now Skinner's on the outside. All right. Now Skinner's on the outside with, quite frankly, a third line that doesn't have a center.
Nope. That's their number one priority, too.
Doesn't have a center because of the Middlestad trade. And might have a good hockey player who is more of a third line type of hockey player in Jordan Greenway. We keep wanting to rush Greenway into like a Postal spot or Gergensons on the fourth line. I believe that Jordan Greenway is a third line winger in this league. And I want 2 free agents after that. Okay. I don't want Jeff Skinner. I don't want my $9 million player who also offers me nothing in special teams to be a third line player. I'd rather have the roster spot or the line spot, let's say, and B, even if it's just a 50% saving on his $9 million. I am not scared off by the penalties. You go back to all of the years with Okposo, and then you do it with Girgensons this year. We are eating $5 to $7 million a year, all right, on players that don't offer us shit. So you're going to tell me that I can't walk away from $4 or $5 million when it's not in the best interest of my team and I've got everybody else locked up? Like, I don't have any mistakes coming. I got everybody locked up.
Yeah.
All right. Instead of worrying about the next Okposo or Olofsson mistake, let Skinner be the mistake. There's your $5 million a year eat, and don't fuck up again. It's not that hard, and he's not a good fit on this roster.
Can I agree with you about Skinner specifically and still conclude that they need a different voice to lead this team?
Sure.
And I think that's what it comes down to.
You could dig both.
I just don't. I'm not saying that everybody's just necessarily tuned them out. I think maybe there's not enough accountability for them coming out and playing like shit. Like, how often do guys get benched?
I think they had shitty leadership. I'm sorry. All due respect to Okposo, Girgensons, whoever else. All right. I think they have shitty leadership, and I'm not 100% sold on the idea that Rasmus Dahlin should be this team's next captain. I need those 2 veterans that I'm talking about to fill that third line role with Jordan Greenway. I need them to be A, good, all right, and B, accountable.
Be right back, folks. All right, I am back here in studio with Tone Pucks, streaming live on the video side, podcast form here overnight into Thursday morning. All right, I think it was a pretty healthy Sabres conversation. I'll tell you what, too, so we've been doing this on Wednesday nights. Season ends on Monday. At least a chance that come next week we'll know if Granato's going to be back. I mean, so you're saying it's a coin flip. You think it's a coin flip right now. I think it'd be a big surprise if he's gone. I'm just gonna say though, if he's not, and all they do again is just get a couple assistants, man.
What color is Eric Mold's bobblehead over there?
It's the weirdest.
What is happening over there?
I bought that for that reason.
Gray.
It is the worst bobblehead I've ever seen in my life. That's why I bought it. I got it at the McKinley Mall.
Awful. Well,
I put a picture of it. I put it up on Facebook and I tagged him in it. And I don't know. I don't think he even saw it or he didn't respond. But yeah,
he was too busy seducing some young woman.
Maybe. Who the hell knows? Yeah, dude. I got all kinds of random bobbleheads here in the studio.
No, I did.
Travis Henry.
The one over there with Mold.
It's awful.
Like, hilarious.
It's completely awful, man. So yeah, look, dude, I don't know. We'll find out next
combo
week.
out. Yo, you know what though? I should add that I give my ticket rep credit, right? Because I'm being a bit of a dickhead on the phone. It's the eclipse day. It's like the Sabres deadline for renewing your seats. I was like, look, man, I just don't have a decision today. I said, what exactly am I losing if I don't drop any money on you guys today? And, he didn't try to upsell. Not upsell, but he didn't try to be like, oh, you're losing so much. He was like, yeah, you just lose like your seat location, man. And then it goes back. And I was like, look, I'll just take that risk. I might be coming back. I need to know when, all right, when the 10 game packages come out. And my man's was just like, that's going to be a couple months, no, I think he said maybe just a couple weeks. It wasn't that far out. And they didn't try to get cute with, well, you're going to be off this list or that list, because I would have lost it. right? I would have been like, are you seriously? You're strong arming me now as a season ticket holder? It's not how they rolled, though. All they, hey, look, you lose your spots. All right. I'm like, I can live with that. I will be in touch, though. Tell me when the prices for 10 games come out. So if you really want to take a look at an average Joe, which I am, at least in terms of how I spend my money, I'm anything but average. I'm a fucking mess. That's what I am. That's a story. That's my story, right? I'm a 20 game guy. All right. You got me for whatever 20 games is. I don't know, 1,500, $2,000.
They're going to get you for 20 more with Don Granato and
no, they're not getting me for they're not getting me for 20 more if they change both. You know what I mean? It was a hindrance. You know what I mean? I lost money. It was always having to sell. It was a pain in the ass. I'll take the 10 package. And look, if it's, $5 more per ticket per game, so be it. I don't want to be on the hook for 20. It's just not 20 fun nights, man. What are you getting out of 20 nights down at that joint for the last however many years? Maybe 5 fun times.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you getting? You're getting like 5 fun times. I'm sorry. I'm not willing to do that anymore. Give me a good year. And,
I'm done giving them the benefit of the doubt. I guess that's what it comes down to. I am not. Last year, I would give Granato the benefit of the doubt. They looked good. They almost made the playoffs. A lot of expectations. Really young team. Gave them the benefit of the doubt. Not this time around. Make the change. Do something drastic, or I am really going to fucking pile on this team nonstop. Got to talk a little bit of Bills here. Look, I don't want to rehash for the trillionth time now the whole Stefon Diggs trade story. You said on Twitter you were disengaged from this pretty much anyway. But I do want to ask you this. The drama's still continuing with him. Some fan made some
nonsense. I'm fucking sitting here. Jackson Holiday made his debut tonight, and I got to talk about this.
Yeah, you do. Some fans are very angry with him, and he's fueling the fire like he did when he was here, man. He liked a tweet that was very anti-Bills. I feel like I'm wasting my time asking.
You kind of are, and
it doesn't bother
and I'm not meaning to be a jerk about it. It's like, and I'm not trying to be cool. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be different. I just genuinely don't care. I don't care so much, man. I can't get over how much I don't care about anything to do with Stefon Diggs' tweets. All right. I just, like, is he mad at us? Maybe, maybe he'll get over it. We'll get over it. We'll reconcile someday. I don't think he's going to become a villain. All right. But just
really, I think he's the modern day almost Brian Cox right now. And maybe for good.
Then my disengagement over the past 24 hours has been a little more extreme than I thought. I mean, the modern day Brian Cox, are we hating that? Is there suddenly that level of hate for him?
I think so.
Really?
I think so. Maybe not long term. Like, people our age, we still hate Brian Cox, man. That was years ago.
Oh man, Brian Cox coming out of that tunnel, flipping double birds.
Yeah, Stefan's not gonna go doing all that.
God bless Brian Cox. That was fun.
All right. So Stefon aside, he's gone. And how he feels about the organization, what the fuck ever at this point. How fans feel about him, ditto. I get it. But there's a part of that story, the breakup, whatever you want to call it, that to me is really interesting. And that's the Stefon Diggs, Josh Allen dynamic. And they were friends on camera. You know what I mean? The cameras are rolling. They're boys. Josh always says the right things. And I think he was genuine too. I don't think Josh was being disingenuous when he was talking up Stefon. So I want to make that clear too. But I've heard a lot about Stefon. One of his biggest problems with Josh is he just feels like Josh doesn't put the work in. Just doesn't put the work in the offseason, man. He doesn't put the work in the offseason. And Josh Allen is a bit of a different cat. Josh Allen wants to take care of his body in the offseason. He wants to play golf. He wants to live his life. He wants to date. He wants to enjoy his life. But he's a gamer. When a game counts,
let that go.
Well, I'm telling you, it's the truth.
No. You're telling me, all right, that it's a buzz. You're not telling me it's the truth. You're telling me that it's the buzz.
It's a buzz, sure.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm not. Look, I believe that Josh and Steph's relationship may well have been at the center of some of the discontent. All right, with the franchise overall. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not saying that that's going too far, but when we start to, I think there's probably a little bit of ego involved when Josh got the big money. All right, when Josh got just got the love. I think Steph. I think there's ego there with Steph, but I'm not here to really judge that. Look, I think it was two dudes that probably there was a falling out, whether it was just a professional one, which it certainly may just have been.
Mm-hmm.
All right. A tremendous amount of strain fell onto that relationship, which isn't weird when you think of the volume of high pressure games that they were in over the course of the past 4 years. Playoffs, prime times, all kinds of shit, man. I mean, they were in front of the camera for these last 4 years in a beautiful way. All right. But the quarterback and the receiver, started to lose a little bit of their luster. Look, this most recent blocking to not have to be bothered by wrestling tweets notwithstanding, you and I have fallen out for years at a time. All right. You and Buffalo Wins are just coming back off of, dude, it just, it's human nature that this sort of thing happens. And it happened at a time where the player was also regressing a little bit. And there were opportunities for both the player and the franchise to move on. And they did it.
Sure.
That's it. So what? It's over. I mean, it's so over with me and Diggs. The only thing that's left with me in that story is, is the position itself, the gaping hole, all right, that we know is likely to be filled in about 2.5 weeks. If you want to give me to, find interest in that, that's where it's going to be. It's going to be, my interest in how the Bills are going to fill that hole. Although not so much players.
Take out Stephon.
So quality of players.
Take out Stefon Diggs. Forget him. He's gone. All right. How he feels about the fans, how the fans feel about him, ain't going to change nothing. He's going to be playing for the Houston Texans now. Well, let me ask you this. Perception or not from him or anyone else, for you, Josh Allen in an offseason, the way he is, again, getting his body right. And this is not to say he's not doing anything, because that's bullshit too. But he's spending plenty of time on the golf course in Paris. He's living his life. And this is not an insult. Let's be real clear about that. Not me insulting him, man. No, let me finish.
Okay.
The stuff he's doing right now, getting his body right and getting ready for the season. Because once the season starts, nobody is more all in than Josh Allen. Nobody plays the game harder than Josh Allen, especially any goddamn quarterback. You ain't got no problem with how he readies himself for what he does in the offseason, because there are some fans and maybe some players, pretty petty, but just think that he's not putting the work in to get better during the offseason. What's your take on that for somebody who would think that, at least?
Banana land, terrible take, joke. An absolute joke. My man doesn't ever look like he's not, prepared for a football game, like missing reads, just utter garbage to think that this future Hall of Fame quarterback,
who never misses a game, by the way, he hasn't missed a game,
is like, skating through in the off seasons without I mean, it's not like he doesn't miss. He comes to everything, right? He comes to everything.
Yeah, he's at OTAs. He's at everything.
Come on, man. That's such a shit garbage take. I can't even, there's nothing about this stuff that made me mad. Okay. I'm fine with everything that he wanted for himself and, to be on a new team. But boy, oh boy, if Steph truly had beef with Josh over what Josh invests in the game of football, not only in the offseason, but let's talk about the season too. Let's talk about the way this man, all right, plays football, the hits that he's willing to take to win football games. All right, that Stephon Diggs, goes down or out of bounds every time.
Mm-hmm.
You're out of your fucking mind.
Can I play devil's advocate?
Say this about that quarterback.
Can I play devil's advocate? I agree with 99.9% of what you said about Josh Allen 99.9% of the time. But we're all human beings, including Josh. And that Bengals playoff game in 2022, Josh Allen was not Josh Allen. When he was going through some shit, preparation was not apparent, reportedly, allegedly. Let me make sure I say that too. Allegedly not there. Cover One reported on this, said that they heard that there was a couple plays involving Steph that Josh did not get down during that week of practice, said he would take care of him. Play came up in the game. He didn't. Stephon, according to Cover One, and other people have said when he had his arms wailing that what he was saying and yelling at Josh is, what's your excuse now? Which was kind of, in some ways, the origin of their beef. By and large, though, I agree about Josh. I mean,
you got to give me, look, man, if, I'll side with Steph there. If there's truth to that, I'll side with them there. But I would need more than a couple examples of a play that the quarterback, that the receiver feels the quarterback didn't have down. All right. Because maybe it's just a product of the fact that, Ken Dorsey or whoever it was at the time, I think it was Dorsey, right? The Cincy loss. Was it Dayball?
Yeah, no, it was Dorsey because he was there for a year and
but whatever.
It was Dorsey.
Look, man, these quarterbacks have a lot on their plate.
In life.
I'm not a Josh apologist. But what's being discussed here is a commitment to a game that I just think my man's is insanely committed to.
Yeah. He's one of the biggest.
I mean, he's a franchise Hall of Fame quarterback.
If you want to blame him for being brain dead during the game sometimes,
you gotta be willing as a receiver, all right, to play second fiddle to that guy.
Sure.
You have to, man. You have to. And Josh or Steph, man, I think there was maybe some envy there. I think there was maybe not envy, just jealousy.
Sure.
Just maybe some jealousy there. Because Steph doesn't exactly lay low, man. Okay. Steph's going out there, fashion weeks and stuff like that. All right. Steph likes his popularity, man.
Sure.
Steph likes his popularity.
Sure.
And what do like popular people hate? Come on, man. Think about high school girls. What do popular people hate?
Why?
Motherfuckers that are more popular than them, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, man. Let's wrap it up.
We're getting there real quick too. So, look, are you preparing yourself for? Everyone assumes the Bills are going first round for wide receiver. I am not even close to being convinced of that. Are you?
My God. I mean, I can't even remember what the other one was. Oh, maybe it was just something that you heard. That's an awful take. You're out of your absolute gourd if you don't think the first player the Buffalo Bills are drafting in the 2024 NFL draft is a wide receiver.
I very well think it could be an edge guy. I do. They're going to take a receiver.
It's a receiver inside 20. He's going up. He's going up. He's going up.
The one thing that could make me side with what you're saying is Brandon Beane lost Diggs, and I'm sure he's got a plan. I don't know that they need a quote-unquote number one receiver who's going to get 150 targets like Stephon Diggs did. Kincaid's emerged. Cook's getting there. Shakir's getting there. Samuel, they'll draft a rookie. They want to run the football more. Why do you need a 150 target guy? Because if you go trade up and get Brian Thomas Jr., you better get him the ball 100 to 120 times in his rookie year.
You got to do that from the jump. All right.
Yeah.
You just,
they're going to get a receiver.
Look, man,
I just don't think it's going to be
first. Trading up so that in the second half of the football season, you can go compete for another championship because you got 4 weapons. All right. Or you at least, you're 4 deep at receiver. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not saying they're not going to address receiver. Just don't know that they're going to do it with the first pick. I want to get two fan questions.
It's happening inside 20. All right. Just so
you think so?
You have it on the record. It will be a receiver. It will be a receiver, and it will happen inside of 20.
Well, then it'll be Brian Thomas Jr. because there's no other receiver that's going inside the 20.
That's what a lot of people are saying.
Yeah. I got 2 fan questions I want to get to. Then we're out. And one's it's not about Stefan.
So
you are such a good trooper. Let me just tell you. At Sammy W 5168. I get the competitive mindset. I get the frustration, but he's the architect of his own misery when it comes to how he's perceived by the fan base and the media. I don't care about that part of the question. Same goes for Jim.
I'd like to say I agree with it, though.
Same goes for Jim Kelly. Yeah, actually, you do. He's the architect of his own misery, sure. Then the guy says, same goes for Kelly, Smith, and Thurman. All those guys would be carbon copies of the Diggs situation in today's world. Do you buy that? Again, we grew up in that era. We know it. Those guys, era,
there's a big if. There's a big if here, okay? Those guys didn't play in an era that saw them with the sort of power that Diggs had now to move to a different team. All right? It would take moving to another team to sour on those guys. So then what you have to ask yourself is how many of them, which ones move on? You know what I mean? But without moving on,
mm-hmm.
then you simply, I can't do apples to apples there in that comparison. Steph had a little bit more of an ability, because I can't remember exactly, but free agency was just vastly different back then, man. Like even when contracts ran out and shit, I think you still had guys into their late 20s. Like guys had to get well into their second contract before they could, they could be free if,
mm-hmm.
memory serves me with that timeline. So it's just different. Mm-hmm. They're probably, did they probably share some similar traits? Yeah, man. Thurman and Bruce. Sure, Bruce was never really motherfucking anybody. Bruce just wanted to be left alone, do some blow at a stop sign and shit like that, show up in early August and go sack the quarterback 20 times.
Training camp.
Loathed it.
Love
Bruce for that shit,
man. Hell yeah.
But yeah, like Thurman, like Thurman may have gotten to a point where he got so frustrated with the Bills and stuff like that, where you could have seen a Diggs type thing. But Thurman called the quarterback out. The two of them hashed it out.
Yeah.
And they went on to great things.
He read that phony ass press conference fucking statement.
The two of them. Is that in Four Falls?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is. You speak of those guys. I remember used to all roll up to Hurdle Avenue. I was bartending or bar backing, I should say, mid-90s. Those guys were literally larger than life. They felt like that for sure when they would come. I remember
being introduced to Bruce at the pier.
Yeah.
He was trying to hit on my
I think that was our age, though.
My manager from ETS.
Were times this that different, or do you think it's our age? Because right now, if Josh and Cook and Jesus Christ, all the big name players are gone now. I got Deion Dawkins. If those guys came in the Imperial, I'd be like, all right, fucking cool. Josh is here, whatever. Hurdle Avenue, I was like, oh my God, Jim Kelly's here. Oh my God, Thurman's here.
I think we were younger. I think we were younger and a little more impressionable.
Sure. All right, last one here. This isn't really a question, but a comment, kind of circling back to the hockey thing. This was in response to one of my tweets about Granato at Darwall, because I suggested that Pagula better listen to the fans. And he said, to cite the old Marv Levy quote, if you start listening to the fans, soon you're going to be sitting with them. Kind of makes sense?
Yeah, I dig it.
Yeah. So, I guess.
Pagula, I'm not ready to really trust him with making that distinction. I need Adams to be able to do it. I need Adams.
Yeah, good point.
I need Adams to be able to do that without being influenced. Like, I want to say this, but then do I believe it? Like, I want Adams to be able to make that decision without being influenced by Terry. But what if Terry's the one that just says, listen, all right, Tony Pucks is about to go from 20 games down to like 8, and he represents probably 5,000 people about to do the same thing, and I want a big Lindy Ruff parade. Who doesn't want that? Okay, give it to me. My God, I'm in. I'm probably not in for 20, but I'm probably calling my season ticket guy back a little faster than I would otherwise. Of course, I want to see Lindy Ruff. You know what I mean? Hit Peters! Don't hit my captain! Don't hit my captain! Who the fuck doesn't want that back on the bench? Come on!
All right, man. Can't end the show any better than that. That's going to do it for today. For Tone Fox, I'm Pat Moran. I will be back. Actually, I'll be right back tomorrow. Live Imperial Pizza, Buffalo News, Bills beat reporter Jay Skursky. Talk to you guys then.